There will be a recording of this, so to any of your friends who are taking quizzes or in lab right now, totally fine. I'll send out that recording. And because I am recording, I will make sure that we read all the questions out loud at the end, so that way, whoever is watching the recording will get the full answers too, because I think that's important. All right, that being said, let's get started. I like to be on time. So today we're going to talk about HASS requirements for engineers. It is a little bit different for you as engineering students because rather than 6 courses, which the rest of campus, the rest of the students have to take, you only have to take 5 classes. However you feel about it, cool. But what is most important about that is the fact that you have a little less space to meet all the requirements, which is why we try to be very intentional with the choices that you're making for HASS, except potentially for your very first HASS course, where our main goal is just taking care of that HASS inquiry course, that IHSS course that you're all pretty familiar with. So the first thing I want to do is I want to make sure that everyone has the resource that will support you in planning your HASS requirements. We send it all out all the time, but as I'm sure you guys are getting used to our answer, you can find everything you need on the SOE Hub website. I did open it, but I'm not actually sure hold on, where it went. All right. Give me a thumbs up if you can see the SOE Hub website. Cool, thanks, Kim. Okay, so now that it is posted, if you come to this website, we have a ton of resources here. We try to make things as easy as possible, especially because during registration time, whoever your advisor is, even when they're a faculty advisor, they're going to be incredibly busy, which will make it hard, if their inbox is filling up, to answer really quick questions, and you could save yourself days of waiting if you can just find the resources yourself. So we try to really create that sort of system on our own website. And also if you go to department websites, you'll find a lot of resources too. So for the HASS requirements, you're actually going to find a link right here in the bullet notes. And for those who haven't gone through this with me before, you can also find your major template, the PDF document, and the Excel template right here that you can download. Here's more information about the SAM meeting when that comes to around in the spring semester, transferring college credits, whether they were from before your time at RPI or if you're planning on doing a summer course, deadlines, ARCH, forms, all of that stuff can be found right in this bulleted list. And then in terms of making an appointment with your advisor, if you just scroll down a little bit more, you're going to find that button that will take you to the appointment link so that you can meet with your advisor. So if we click it, you'll see all of us right here. And if you're not sure who your advisor is, all you have to do is read, and we've listed our advisors right next to us. Okay. So that being said, if you come to the HASS requirements for engineers, this is a great webpage. I'm not going to go through it too much. You can definitely go through it independently, but we've collected all of the resources that we've made to go in your registration guide. So what you viewed over the summer, and you can watch those videos right here again if you want a refresher. And then here we have the HASS worksheet. If you click that, it's going to take you to a PDF document that you can download. And then right here, this will navigate you to your pathway options, which we'll get into in a second. All right, so that being said, pretend that I clicked that to download it. I already have it downloaded, so I'm just going to move it over. Okay, so this is the HASS core worksheet. So every year we update this worksheet. We send it over to the HASS hub. Their advisors look at it to make sure that all the requirements are correct, all of the guidelines are correct, and we are aware of how many there are and how much you need to navigate, which is why this worksheet is probably the most important resource that you have in maintaining your HASS requirements. So it starts out with really helpful information, which is the core consists of 20 credit hours or 5 courses. So again, that's different for you in engineering than the rest of the school. What are HASS courses? HASS stands for Humanities, Arts, and Social Science. All of these classes are considered HASS courses. Management is not considered HASS. It helps if you think that there is a school of HASS and there is a school of management. Those are two separate schools, so they are different sets of requirement. You can 100% take management courses and use them as free electives. That's actually encouraged if you have an interest in management or business, but they will not count as part of your HASS core. All right, and now the HASS core requirements. To summarize, you have a HASS inquiry course, which I'm going to guess a good group of you have already completed your HASS requirement or HASS inquiry requirement. You have an integrative pathway, which is a series of 3 courses. You have a communication intensive requirement and a 4,000 level requirement. So the key is, how do you fit all of these into your pathway? Can one course meet multiple requirements? And the answer to that is yes. And the answer is starting by looking at pathways, right? So the HASS inquiry course, actually, I wanna get a poll here. I don't actually know how to do a poll, but raise your hand with the icon on the bottom of your screen if you have. Oh, I think that'll work. If you have taken your HASS inquiry course this spring. Cool. Yes, it is working. Awesome. Awesome. Sweet. And I don't know what the other icons are, but give me any other icon on that list of icons if you have not done your HASS inquiry course. And don't be shy about it. It is okay if you did not get your HASS inquiry. Okay. I don't know if I confused myself or I helped myself, but it's good. It's good that we're all across the board here. So I am going to go into the catalog and talk about that more for sure. But I think at this point, as we're headed into our second semester, one of the easiest ways to tackle our house requirements is actually through the pathway. So to get to your pathways, as I showed you, you can actually find them pretty easily off the SOE Hub website. But there's also right on this worksheet a link, and if we click it, it will take us to your catalog. So I'm going to say this 100 times over the next couple, well, days and weeks and months. You always want to make sure that you are looking at your cohort's catalog. If we click this drop-down menu, we will see it goes all the way back to 2007. And odds are, if you just Googled RPI catalog, this is actually what it's going to pull up, and you will not see the correct requirements for your cohort, including the HASS requirements, but also whatever your major is. So we always want to make sure that you guys are looking at the 2022, 2023, and it's easy to remember because it's going to start with the semester that you started at RPI. So fall 2022, this is your catalog. And then to get to the integrated pathways, we scroll down to programs. We scroll down the list, we find our integrated pathways, and then these are the list of pathways. So there's a very large amount of pathways. They cover very diverse interests. And there's a couple ways to approach a pathway. I know because there are so many, it can be pretty daunting. So what I typically say is you can look at it in terms of what do I love to do and what really gives me a brain break in my schedule. You know, what are my hobbies? What's my passion? And that is a perfectly fine way to make this choice. A recruiter is also going to be excited if they like art and you like art and you guys can talk about drawing together. You know, same if you do psychology and you were just interested in what, what kind of psychology could help you in your career later down the road, which it will. Anything counts. And then other than hobbies and interests, of course you can look at what connects really well with your major. Some of you are very career minded, very career focused, and of course that's a good way to make a decision too. I'm definitely not going to weigh in on which one I think is better because it is a completely 100% a personal choice. If you do struggle, this is something you could bring to your hub advisor, send them an email or come to WebEx Wednesday after this and we can talk about it more. But really, I would just say go with your gut on this one to make a choice about the pathway. So looking at this list here, I think I want to go into this 2 ways. So the first person to message me what HASS course they're in right now, let's start with that. So I need the IHSS and then whatever number. And the first one to enter it, I will use their class as an example, which will give you a leg in for your your planning. Okay, I got one. So this is actually, oh, it looks like a few of you are in the same one. So if you come to the search bar, and you can see I've already searched a ton of HASS courses. This is what I've been doing in a lot of my conversations through registration. You type in your HASS course, scroll down to programs like we were just looking at, and everything that pulls up here is going to include the HASS course that you just searched. So this is a big one, so it's kind of funny to start with it because this might be a really overwhelming list to look at. But these are, they could be majors, they could be electives, they could be pathways, they could be minors, and of course clicking on them is how you're going to find out. So I want to click through. So if you hit the numbers, you can see the whole list. Just see what all the options are. Cool. All right. So of course, if you're taking econ, which is the course that I searched was Principles of Economics, you can do any economics pathway, and I'll go back to programs to show you the list. However, by doing this, we get to see that there are other pathways that also include econ. So you don't necessarily have to follow econ. If you're in econ right now and you're realizing you don't love it, maybe there's something else, but that this course you're in can continue to help you with your pathway requirements. So for example, environmental futures is a pathway. You choose one of the following. So you did. You chose Principles of Economics. And then pathways are a series of 3 classes. So we'll go back to the worksheet in just a moment. But you would choose those remaining classes from this part. And it's that simple. So while you did econ, maybe for your remaining courses, you can look at art, philosophy, or science, tech, society. You know, of course, things you want to pay attention to are if there are any prerequisites. And if you see something like this, I do say that it is always okay to ask. You know, you can reach out to the professor and explain your background and explain, you know, why you think you would be okay taking the course based on the description. And, you know, if they say, or permission of instructor, they're basically giving you an open door to ask that question. Okay. So that is a way to search your HASS inquiry course to attach to a pathway. Let's go back to programs. And then, because I really just want to quickly show you, if you are, did I scroll right past it? I did. If you are in economics, you also have all these options. So you could, if you really are enjoying economics, you have plenty of pathways to go down. All right, so let's say that you are in econ, and let's go back to the worksheet. So how you fill out this worksheet to keep you on track, you know, there's a couple ways. You can definitely edit the document as a PDF on your computer. You are also able to print it out, which honestly is how I do things still. I'm pretty old-fashioned sometimes. So that's a little bit bigger than I wanted. Hold on. Do this? Yeah, this is what I want. Okay, so IHSS 1200. I swear this is not my first time using this program. So IHSS 1200. By doing this, you have completed your first HASS requirement. Let's see. Comment. There we go. This is what I'm looking for. So we can check that box. You are now done. It is nothing you have to worry about in the future. You have met that requirement. So the next one, and we have this worksheet in this order for a reason. So your next priority is that pathway. So based on what we just found together, we know there's plenty of pathways that we can choose with econ. So we'll go back to that list, and I am going to click on environmental futures. So choose one of the following. Our first one was economics. So I quickly type that in here. Oh, yes, I can zoom in. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. Is that better? Thumbs up if it's better. Cool. Awesome. All right. So we got our IHSS course. We chose environmental futures. I think I already forgot because that's how my brain works. First course that we chose, or maybe we just happened into, was econ. And now we have to choose our remaining HASS courses. So we're going to choose from this list. Looking at this list, and I'm going to zoom in here. Who I pick two of off of this list. Just type in the ones that you're interested in, and we'll use this as an active example. And again, whoever types it in first wins. I do need two though, so. All right, 4250, we'll start with that one. So we look at bioethics, which ironically is the one I clicked on before. So what we would do is, first of all, we're gonna bring this to our worksheet, and this is the planning part, right? So it is our plan to take this course. Again, we want to pay attention to prerequisites. So of course, we acknowledge that we do not see econ part of this. But let's quickly take a look and see what these other courses are. So we have sociology, we have American history, we have introduction to philosophy, we have science and scientific misconduct, we have the genome and you, and then we have ethics. So again, if you're reading this list right now and you're like, oh, actually, I have taken an ethics course, or I've taken AP American history and I got a 4, I couldn't transfer it in, but I have that knowledge. Or maybe you did get a 5 and you were able to transfer it in. That could count as a prereq, and that's a really good reason to reach out to the instructor. But say you don't have any of these prereqs, right? That means we might want to look into prereqs, and that's where, again, the worksheet becomes very helpful, because while we're working on these requirements, at the end of the day, we still have to take 5 HASS courses, right? So we got our IHSS 1200. It is our plan to take this course, and I'm putting it here for a reason. We still have one more pathway course we have to choose, and then it appears that we have 2 extra courses right now. So in theory, next spring, what you could do is you could, instead of targeting bioethics, you could target one of the prerequisite courses, especially if you're interested in it. Most importantly, if you're interested in it, I would argue. So what do I think? I think I what I would like to think is I wish I could remember what's available in the spring. So let's just say Genome Menu is available this spring, right? And it's gonna fit into your schedule. It works out great. Well, cool. We bring that over here. Whoop. Okay. Definitely don't need all that. And while it's not specific to a pathway, it is going to help you with your HASS requirements. It's getting you a prerequisite, so you know you'll be able to get into this course when it comes time, which maybe will be your junior year, which is fine. This doesn't all happen tomorrow. It happens a semester at a time. You know, and not for nothing, if the genome menu, and I can't remember, if it is communication intensive, maybe it's taking care of that for you. You know what we'll do? We'll actually do this together because I do think this is important. We're gonna go to class search real quick. So class search for the spring. Okay, so let's look at econ, or sorry, we're gonna look at the interdisciplinary HASS options. So these are the options for the spring. So I do believe that we did see this course as an option. So if my memory is working, this is the only course that was part of that prereq list that is offered in the spring. And what I really wanted to show you, if you scroll over and look under attributes, that's where you can tell if a course is communication intensive or not. So for those of you who gave me the example of economics, we already know that course isn't communication intensive. So this example that we're going through is actually awesome, because what this course is doing is it setting you up for this. It is giving you a backup HASS inquiry, which you don't really need. That's a luxury. But it's also meeting your communication intensive requirement. So it's doing a lot for you, even though initially we only targeted it. And I know this is the wrong number. Hold on. 1160. Okay. So initially we only targeted it because we were looking at the prereq list, right? But it's giving us so much more. Okay, so then we need one more course for our pathway. We have 2 more courses left. We have also just met our 4,000 level requirement with our choice of this STSO course. So we have 2 courses to meet one more requirement. So this is going to open up some doors. So let's go back to our programs. Okay. Whoop. Did not really need to store that. Just want that to go away. Okay. All right. Who wants to pick the next class? The first one in wins. Okay, 4720, consumer culture. So we're looking at this, looking at prereqs, and the prereq is any 1000 or 2000 level STS, which is super broad, and again, or permission of instructor. So if we come back to our list, we're going to have that STSO course at a 4000 level. So by the time we potentially get to this, we're going to be okay. So we put this in, and that was 4720, I think. Look at too many numbers in a day. Yeah, okay. So we've completed our HASS inquiry, We've completed our communication intensive. We've completed our pathway with these 3 courses, and we still have 1 remaining HASS course. So I think that is incredibly good to know, because some pathways, and not the pathway that we've chosen together, but some pathways have minors, so you could continue on with a 4th course right here and complete a minor. It's very, very easy to get a minor in HASS. It's not required, it's not necessary. But what's nice about these open-ended pathways is that if you're not really sure what to fill in here, I mean, you could literally throw a dart at the catalog and just choose any HASS course you want, which is why, you know, there is flexibilities here, which is convenient. Or you could just choose another class from this pathway that sounds interesting to you. And that gets to be your call. And you can use that. So just to save a little time, you know, if we do sustainability education, 4280, again, taking a look at that. Actually, this is a pretty great class, but very competitive to get into. It just kind of opens up the doors of the options you can take. All right, so I'll do this. Just to finish off our requirements. So we've met all our requirements, we met our 20 credits of HASS, and we're done. So when we get to the spring semester, or sooner if you're ready, and you work on that semester by semester curriculum plan, HASS is definitely going to be part of it. So each place where you see a HASS on that Excel sheet, you're going to write in either IHSS 1100, or you're going to write in, I want this to be my communication intensive course, or this is going to be my last pathway course, so that you remember, you know, by the time you leave us, you're with your faculty advisor 2 years from now, you know, what did I need to do with my HASS? What do I have left? This worksheet and that Excel template are going to go hand in hand in helping you understand what you have to do. There are more important notes about HASS that I do want to bring up. So for example, you cannot take more than 3 courses at a 1000 level. So where that usually comes up is if you bring in any AP credits for HASS. If you look at this list, we very easily were able to select 2 1000 level courses, and it made sense, the 2 that we chose. But you would be able to have a 3rd one if you brought in an AP class. That might be your 3rd one, right? So it's something you just want to keep an eye on. Pass no credit is something that you can use when it comes to your HASS requirements, but you want to be careful with it. You can only pass no credit up to 2 of your HASS courses, and they cannot be anything that is part of your pathway. So you would not be able to pass no credit this, number 1, number 3, or number 4, or your communication intensive course, so we wouldn't be able to pass credit number 2. However, we just picked this really random HASS course. Maybe we end up taking that during our senior year and we're focusing on our capstone. 100% this is something that you could pass no credit. Pass no credit means if you pass the course, you get the credit, you don't get the grade. If you fail the course, you don't get the credit, and you still don't get the grade. So it's really just completing that credit that you need in order to graduate, more than it is a grade. For those of you with transfer credits, whether they're AP or dual enrollment, you can only apply up to 2 of those transfer credits to HASS. Anything beyond that will be a free elective. So this will be something that you'll work out with your advisor. Again, when you work on that semester by semester plan, will help you see exactly where those credits will land on your curriculum. Maybe where they could land because things change. You might change your mind in a couple of years about how you want to use them. But that's an important note. And then this final note is really important. And now I know I'm getting into a stage where I'm giving you a lot of information. I'm going to talk about it anyway because it is important. But what I hope happens after we finish this session today is you head straight to the website, download a copy of this worksheet. You'll have this on hand so you can refer to it at any point to get this information. And also download that worksheet many times because you might have more than one HASS plan as you're exploring your options. All right, so going back to professional development requirement, as an engineering student, you do have what we call a PD requirement. It's a series of 3 courses, and one of them, STSO 4100, is a HASS course. It is not part of everything that we talked above. It is separate to what you see above. So if we go back to the catalog, and I don't know if we'll see it here. No, it's not on this list. Let me try one other spot. Because this, if I can find one, it'll be a really helpful explanation. Okay. One more chance. Give me one more chance. Let's do, oh, you know what? Okay, cool. So right here, you're going to see NPD2 option for engineering majors. So if we scroll over, we see Design, Culture, and Society. We see a 4-credit course, and we see that this could be our PD2 course option. There are some people who end up taking these 4-credit options thinking that they're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, and that is not the case. What I'll say, and this is the part that I hope sticks, is just when it comes time, take STSO 4100. Ignore those PD2 alternative options. You can certainly take that class if it has something to do with your pathway, if you're using it for a minor, anything like that. But just ignore the part where it's telling you about the professional development requirement. The reason why is that your curriculum is broken up into numbers of credits. So just like you have a requirement of 20 HASS credits for your HASS core, you also have the 4 credits that are a requirement for PD2. If you tried to take, and I know I'm in the weeds here, so if you're feeling lost, it is really okay. But if you did try to take Design, Culture, and Society, thinking you'd kill 2 birds with 1 stone, what happens is 2 credits, it gets split. 2 credits would go towards that PD2 requirement, and 2 credits are going to go towards your HASS core, meaning you go to graduate and you're 2 credits short in HASS, you've only taken 18 credits because of that split. Save yourself stress, frustration, anxiety. Take Design, Culture, and Society if you want to, again, if it fits your pathway or a minor, and then just take PD2. It's a silly 2-credit course. It's something you could do over the summer. It's a really low grab. And then for the rest of the PD, the professional development courses, if you're a chemical engineer, you're going to see it as a 1-credit course. I can't remember off the top of my head what the number is, but it is clearly labeled on your template. Everyone will take another 1-credit course, which is, it depends upon the template you look at. It's either called PD3 or it's called leadership. And then this is PD2. So you will see them on the template when you look. For all majors except for chemical engineering, the second one or the first one is in Introduction to Engineering Design. So I know the last 5 minutes of what I was talking about is a lot. That's why I'm recording it so that you can come back, you can hear it again, and also you have this worksheet to remind you of what the requirements are and how they break up. I don't expect that you don't have questions after the seminar. I expect that you might even have more questions after this, which is why we're now going to stop and we're going to head to the question part. But also, you know, some of you might need to digest this information a little bit, download the worksheet, apply it to you, your needs, your goals, your interests, and then connect either later today in WebEx Wednesday with your advisor or even next week at WebEx Wednesday in order to really kind of get through those HASS core requirements. Okay, yes, let's stop and let's do questions. So Kim, did we have any questions in the chat?
I don't see any currently.
Okay,
Um, but I don't know if anyone else has questions. Please feel free to put it in the chat and I'll read it out loud. You don't even have to read it out loud.
yeah, cool. So we will pause for that. Thanks, Kim.
It looks like we got one. So what should we do if we didn't like our inquiry class but still need to choose a pathway?
Yeah, so that happens because again, our number one priority is especially now that you guys see the HASS core requirements, you can kind of see why we just say get into a HASS inquiry course and we'll break it down once you're here. Um, so as you can see from my econ example is that there actually could be a pathway associated with the course that you took um, that might have very little to do with the specific inquiry course that you took. So the first thing I would have you do is go to the college catalog, again, double checking that you're looking at your cohort's catalog. Um, type in the search bar what your class is, and you want to use that IHSS and then the number, and then see what programs come up that are associated with your pathway. Um, that could be the answer right there. You find something different, something that is more interesting to you. You get to take 2 more courses that are different from the one you started with. Problem solved, carry on. If you don't see a pathway that you're interested in that isn't or that is connected to your current HASS inquiry course, for the most part, if you didn't come in with any transfer credits, just take anything in the spring that sounds interesting to you and try again. Odds are, you're gonna find something that works out for you. And at the end of the day, this is this is my, maybe bummer advice, but you are here to be an engineer, so sometimes we just check off the boxes, right? We just got to get through the courses so that you can graduate and become an engineer. Um, I had a question I was gonna ask. Did you, that was my question. Adam, do you have any transfer credits or are you coming in with a blank slate? Okay. And are they HASS transfer credits? Do you know, are they like do you know what they've transferred in as? Okay, cool. So in your situation, are you comfortable telling me what HASS course you're in right now and having me quickly go to the catalog with everyone to look at it? Kim, I lost the chat, so if he answers.
Yeah, it's the genome in you.
Okay, sweet. Cool. So let me go back to the catalog. Um,
That's IHSS 1150.
thanks, Kim. Thank you. Okay, so we do that search just like I showed before. Scroll down to programs, and then again, not all of these might be pathways, but a good number of them probably are. So if we just start clicking, that says minor, so that's a no. Click, 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 click. So just as a way to start, is this a pathway or a major? So we know that's a major. We look at this, that's a pathway. Look at this, that's a pathway. That's a pathway. That's a pathway. 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 All right. So, um, and you can type in the chat and Kim will let me know. Or you can unmute yourself. Are there any of these pathways that you're interested in? Okay. So so what I would have you do, what are the pathways that you are interested in? Okay. So, so for those who can't see, Adam said that he forgot the names and lost the paper. So, while we're on this page, what I'll do is I'll click on, like if we look at the well-being pathway, if you look at this, there's art courses, There's cognitive science courses, which is very interesting, I know, to many of you who are into computer programming, AI. There's philosophy, there's psychology, there's writing, and that's all under the umbrella of well-being. So for anyone who's in a situation similar to what Adam is trying to decide, you know, ultimately you do have to make a choice about what you want to do for HASS and about your curriculum in general. You have to meet the requirements in order to graduate. So it's either making do with one of the pathways that does have the class that you took, knowing that there could be diversity in the other options that you could take. The genome in you is definitely a style. But on the other side of it, you got positive psychology, right? There's a pretty big difference between those two courses. Um, if ultimately you just want to start from scratch, um, and take something that's totally outside of all of this, you might have to make the choice that some of your transfer credits go towards free elective. So still meeting graduation requirements, still fulfilling that 4 credit that you need to complete in order to graduate, but it just looks a little bit different at the end of the day. This is something I would say, it could be very individual depending upon you. So you might want to spend some time exploring, and then once you have a list of the stuff that you're interested in, um, okay, so, all right, cool, Adam. I'll get back to that in just a second. So if you are thinking that you might need a little help, this is literally most of my advising meetings up to this point. And if any of you are my advisees, I haven't looked at who's in the room. You probably remember. But this is what we spend a good chunk of this time doing, is going over pathways and requirements to make sure that you understand and can move forward in that direction. So Adam, I see that you said the courses you were interested in were communication courses, because you're looking to fill your communication intensive requirement. So you can meet your communication intensive outside of comm. Was comm a pathway that you were genuinely interested in pursuing, or were you just trying to meet that requirement? Okay, so Adam said that he's looking at communication in classes regardless of a pathway. That's where I would change your direction, because you have transfer credits especially. What I would have you focus on first is your pathway. If you remember the worksheet, we put it in order of HASS inquiry and then pathway and then communication intensive. That's the way you want to prioritize fulfilling your requirements. Because if you have a look, if you, for example, decided environmental futures was a good choice for you, and you were interested in, environmental economics as your next choice, if you come to the class search, and this is just an example, this might steer me in the wrong direction, but if you look in attributes, remember, you're going to find communication intensive courses. So these are all the classes that are communication intensive that are an economics course. And the one that I just mentioned might not be communication intensive, but there's communication intensive courses everywhere. You don't have to take a WRIT or a COMM to meet that requirement. So it's just kind of choosing a pathway, following it down that line, and then seeing where those communication intensive courses will lie. And that might be something that after you do a little bit of digging and kind of really figure out what you want to do, have a meeting with your advisor and they can help finalize it for you. Cool. So I'm going to move on, Adam. And I would say any other questions, just reach out to your advisor and they can help you finalize all that. But I do see some other questions.
If you
Um,
want, do you
yeah,
want me to read them out loud for you?
yeah, that would be great.
Okay, if we want to complete some of our pathway over the summer, what's the process for getting community college courses approved?
Yeah, so it's the same no matter what you would look to do over the summer, the process is going to be the same. Really, you don't really need to think about it till January. Most colleges aren't even going to publish their summer listings until like March. The early ones maybe February, but most of them will be March. Um, you would need to find what colleges are available at the community, or sorry, the courses at the community college that you're looking at. You would need to fill out a transfer credit approval form. That form would need to be signed by the HASS, the School of HASS, and on that form they will say what that course would transfer in as at RPI. And then your advisor will be the last person to sign the form. We send out all of this information at the beginning of the spring semester. So again, you don't need to necessarily remember what I said. But what I 100% want everyone to hear me say is do not take a course over the summer without getting it approved from RPI first. It is a living nightmare. I actually have nightmares about students who take courses over the summer, didn't seek approval first, spent time and money on classes that ultimately could not come back to RPI the way they wanted them to. It is awful. I don't want to be the advisor to tell you that you took something that can't transfer back. So make sure that you do seek that approval in advance of any course that you want to take, whether it's HASS, management, science, engineering, look for the approval first. Um, there are no guarantees with HASS courses if they come in as something that could be on a pathway. So I would say we probably are going to want to check in with HASS earlier rather than later to see if this is actually going to be an option. A lot of times when you take HASS courses, even at community colleges, they will come in as just a general elective as opposed to something that is a requirement for your pathway. Cool. All right, next question.
What do I what do I do if it turns out that my Haas course this semester isn't actually an inquiry class? Do I have to go back and take another?
So I'll definitely rephrase the way that you talk about that because that sounds like you made it sound like it's a lot of extra work. It's not going back and taking another one, it's just completing a first year requirement. It's just like students who were unable to take IEA or Intro to ECSE in the fall semester, they're going to be taking it in the spring. So that's exactly how you should think about this Haas inquiry course. You couldn't take it in the fall, so now yes, you have to take it in the spring. Um, it could if the course that you're in right now is part of a pathway you want to pursue, this happens a lot with students who are interested in psychology, because Intro to Psychology is not a Haas inquiry course. But if you take a look at the pathway, you can see if there are things associated with those classes that you like, or simply just go look at that list of Haas inquiry classes and pick one that is interesting to you because as you saw in the worksheet, sometimes you have a lot of flexibility and you can kind of just take some random stuff and a lot of times you'll hear alumni talk about it and they say honestly the class I remember the most was the most random Haas course that I took, and I've heard many of them talk about how it applied to what they're doing now, so I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Okay, next.
I don't see any more questions in there.
Okay.
But I don't know if you wanted to touch on it. You kind of mentioned it in passing about potentially minoring in pathways and
Yeah.
how that might be able to fit into Haas requirements.
Yeah, certainly. So I can go back to economics. So if we go to programs, and you see the college catalog?
Yes.
Cool. I'm bouncing around a lot, so I just wanted to double check. So if we go back to economics, it's a good example because it does have a minor attached with it. This is the pathway. So the pathway says we have to choose one of the following. So if you guys took this course in the fall, you have already met that part of the pathway. Then you choose one of the following. So there's three different options here. And then you choose the remaining credits from this list, which is any 4,000 level econ course. So pretty general, pretty basic. But if we click on the economic minor, it will give us the same information, but it'll outline the requirements maybe more specifically. So in this case, again, you have to take the intro econ course, whichever one you have. The minor requires microeconomic theory, which if we go back to the pathway, it says choose one of the following. So you see there's micro and there's macro. So for the minor, you would want to take micro and then any 2,000 level economics course and any 4,000 level economics course. So what's nice about it is even if you had taken macro, it can still get you that minor, with the addition of one 4,000 level course, or depending upon how you were moving through it, a 2,000 level course. Um, if a pathway has a minor associated with it, you will find that language at the bottom, so it won't be a secret. Um, and not all HASS pathways have minors, but a good amount of them do. And as mentioned, it's really easy. It's really easy to have a HASS minor. So if you do see that there's a compatible minor, I encourage you to go for it. Um, cool. Did did that help, Kim?
Yes, it did.
Awesome.
There's one more question in here. If an
Mhm.
inquiry course that I am fairly interested in taking has no spaces left during registration for the spring, what should my plan of action be?
Awesome. I love this question. And honestly, we get this question all the time. So here's what I'll say about the spring semester. With Haas inquiry courses, there's definitely a smaller amount of students who are looking to get into Haas inquiry course. Most students probably checked off that box in the fall, but not everyone did because we all know the complications. There's only a limited number of seats in a class. Classes conflict all the time. It's just part of registration. Hopefully, you do get more and more comfortable, so it's something you don't stress about too much when you begin to understand the flexibilities of your curriculum. However, if you do get to registration and the IHSS course that you had your sights on is full, first thing, move to Plan B, register for another HASA inquiry course that, also satisfied what you were looking to satisfy. Have a few plans. I'll say it all the time, Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, just be prepared. Um, and then the next step is depending upon why you couldn't get into it. So, many of you, I'm sure, have already faced those major specific restrictions to courses. In situations like that, what is happening is that there is a major that requires that course for graduation, and the department is simply just saving those seats for their students to be able to have first dibs on those classes. It's a pain in the butt, but of course, we kind of have to agree that that's a very good thing for them to do because we want those students to be able to graduate. If you think about it in the context of if anyone could register for IEA and a bunch of students came in and took IEA away from you, you would be pretty upset about it, especially if they didn't need it to graduate. They were just looking for something to take for fun. Um, so if that's the situation, typically registration will close. It reopens during final exam week. At that point, there might be enough information on the department side to release the remaining seats to the rest of campus. And if that happens, the restriction will be taken off on CIS, and you would be able to register for that course at that time. There could be a wait list, and if there is, I encourage you to get on it. A lot can happen between semesters, and it is always possible that you're able to, they'll move through the wait list and your turn will come up. Um, if you're not facing a major restricted course, basically you just want to keep an eye on that class. So again, if there's a wait list, get yourself on the wait list. And then while registration is closed, nothing could possibly happen, but you are always welcome to reach out to the professor to ask, is there a chance that you'll let me in the class even though it's closed? Again, that's not going to work if it's major restricted and they're still waiting for their students to register for the class. But if it is open to all majors and, they're just closed, it is okay to ask. Um, if you keep an eye on CIS and you keep looking, even on the way up to registration, there is still a chance that students will drop that class and you'll be able to take their seat. I wouldn't give up until the ad deadline. And this is something that, if it does happen to you, you can specifically reach out to your hub advisor and ask for advice on your personal situation. It'll be pretty much what I said, but we might have more insight. We might be able to look at the class specifically, and we can show you how to look at the class. So in the future, you can tackle that. Um, but I hope that helped. I hope that answered the question.
looks like we got another question. Is it required to take my inquiry in my first year, or can I take it later?
So the HASS inquiry is a first year requirement. What this means is once you become a sophomore, you will not be able to register for any HASS inquiry courses other than economics. If that doesn't bother you and your plan was to take economics, cool. You can do that in your sophomore year to meet that HASS inquiry requirement. But if you do not want to take HASS inquiry, you better get yourself into a HASS inquiry course in the spring, because it is a graduation requirement, and you will not graduate if you do not complete your HASS inquiry. Any other questions?
It looks like that was the last one at this point.
Okay. We can give a couple more seconds to see if anyone has other questions. You know, as I mentioned before, I know HASS is a lot. It's a lot to process. So again, my advice going forward is to download the worksheet. Think about what you already have, whether it's what you've done this fall, what you transferred in. See if you can fill out that worksheet. And I won't speak for the other advisors, but for me, I am perfectly happy if you want to email me the worksheet based on your understanding, and I can provide feedback. It's a really quick way for me to take a look and give you insight on what you're thinking. Um, I'm sure the other advisors would be happy about that too. I just saw Kim said she agrees. But it is, it's something you could be deeply stressed about it, and in 30 seconds we could take a very quick look and go, you have nothing to stress about. You are on track, you know what you have to do, just follow the chat. The chat. Follow the worksheet. I know what I'm saying. Um all right. So, and we're almost at the end of our hour. So if there are no more questions, please feel free to head on out. I will linger a couple more minutes just in case there are more questions. Um, and you want to unmute yourself and ask those questions, but don't forget, as soon as this ends, WebEx Wednesday is going to be live again. You can sign yourself up. You can speak one-on-one with your hub advisor. You can continue asking Haas questions. Do the same thing that we did in this workshop, but one-on-one with your advisor, and see if you can get that understanding of Haas requirements.